The morning sun shone through the windows of Marcus King's penthouse apartment. He stood in front of his mirror, fixing his tie before another day at King Enterprises. At 45, Marcus had everything money could buy: a successful business empire, fancy cars, and a beautiful fiancée. But something felt empty inside him. "Mr. King, your car is ready," his assistant called through the intercom. Marcus grabbed his briefcase and headed down to the lobby where his driver waited. The drive to work was the same as always. Marcus checked his phone messages while the car moved through the busy city streets. His fiancée, Victoria Chase, had sent him 5 texts about their upcoming wedding. She wanted everything to be perfect: the most expensive venue, the fanciest flowers, the best photographers. Marcus wondered when she had last asked him how his day was going. At the office, Marcus's younger brother, David, was waiting with a worried look on his face. "We need to talk," David said, following Marcus into his office. "The Thompson deal is falling apart. They're saying they might go with our competitors." Marcus felt his blood pressure rising. The Thompson deal was worth millions. Losing it would hurt the company badly. "Get them on the phone right now," he ordered, loosening his tie. But before David could make the call, Marcus felt a sharp pain in his chest. The room started spinning. He tried to reach for his desk, but his legs gave out. The last thing he heard was David yelling for help, as everything went black. When Marcus opened his eyes again, he was in a hospital bed. The steady beep of machines filled the room. A nurse hurried in to check on him, but the pain in his chest was so bad that he passed out again. For the next few days, Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness. The doctors said he had suffered a major heart attack. They had to perform emergency surgery. Every time he woke up, different faces surrounded his bed: doctors, nurses, his brother David, sometimes Victoria, who always seemed more interested in taking selfies by his bedside than actually talking to him. But there was one face that started to stand out. Ana Martinez, one of the night shift nurses. She didn't wear fancy clothes or expensive jewelry like Victoria. She didn't try to talk business like David. She just did her job with quiet kindness, checking Marcus's vitals, adjusting his pillows, making sure he was comfortable. "You need to take it easy," Anna would tell him whenever he got frustrated about being stuck in the hospital. "Your heart needs time to heal." What Marcus didn't know was that while he was recovering, things at King Enterprises were falling apart. David had called an emergency board meeting. He showed up with a document Marcus had signed years ago, giving David power of attorney if anything happened to him. Now David was using it to take control of the company. Victoria's true colors started showing too. She spent less and less time at the hospital. When she did visit, she was always on her phone, talking about pushing back the wedding date or complaining about how Marcus's condition was affecting her social life. But Anna was there, every night, doing her rounds with a gentle smile. She started bringing him magazines to read, telling him funny stories about her family to lift his spirits. Sometimes she would just sit with him in comfortable silence while she filled out her charts. One night, Marcus woke up to find Anna checking his blood pressure. "Why are you so kind to me?" he asked. Anna looked surprised by the question. "Because every patient deserves kindness," she said simply. "Even millionaire CEOs who work too hard." For the first time since his heart attack, Marcus felt himself truly smile. There was something about Anna's honest, straightforward way that made him feel more alive than all his business success ever had. What he didn't realize was that his world was about to change completely. David's takeover of the company was just the beginning. Victoria's true motives would soon come to light, and Anna. She would prove to be much more than just the kind nurse who helped him heal. In the quiet hospital room that night, as the city lights twinkled outside his window, Marcus King had no idea that his heart attack wasn't just a medical emergency. It was the start of a journey that would make him question everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and what really matters in life. The hospital days turned into weeks. Marcus started feeling stronger, but the news from the outside world only got worse. David had taken complete control of King Enterprises. The board members who had once praised Marcus now wouldn't even return his calls. "Your brother signed another deal today," Anna told him one evening while checking his medication. She had seen it on the news. "He sold off the Thompson contract to your competitors. Marcus felt his heart monitor beep faster. The Thompson contract was supposed to be his company's biggest deal of the year. "He's destroying everything I built," Marcus said, his hands shaking with anger. Anna quickly moved to calm him down. "Your health comes first right now," she said, adjusting his pillows. "You can't fight for your company if you don't take care of yourself." That night, Victoria finally showed up after being absent for 3 days. She breezed into the room wearing a designer dress and carrying shopping bags. "Darling, you won't believe the day I've had," she said, barely looking at Marcus. "The wedding planner is driving me crazy, and now with all this business drama with David, everyone's asking questions." "Did you know about the Thompson deal?" Marcus asked. Victoria's perfectly made-up face froze for a moment. "Oh, that? David said it was best for the company. You know, I don't understand all that business stuff." She waved her hand dismissively. "By the way, I think we should postpone the wedding until next spring. It would be better for the social calendar anyway." From her spot by the door, Anna watched Victoria's performance with quiet disapproval. She had seen too many patients surrounded by people who cared more about themselves than the sick person in the bed. Later that night, after Victoria left claiming she had an important charity event to attend, Anna found Marcus staring out the window. "Want to talk about it?" she asked, bringing him his evening medicine. "I was so focused on making money, on being successful," Marcus said quietly. "I never saw what was right in front of me. Victoria doesn't love me. David was just waiting for his chance to take over. I don't even know who I can trust anymore." Anna sat down in the chair next to his bed. "Sometimes we need to lose everything to see what really matters," she said. She told him about her own family, how her parents had come to America with nothing, how they had worked multiple jobs to put her through nursing school, how they had taught her that real wealth wasn't about money. Marcus found himself hanging on every word. Anna's simple wisdom touched something deep inside him. Here was someone who saw him not as a rich CEO or a business opportunity, but just as a person who needed help. The next morning, Marcus got another shock. His lawyer, James Peterson, came to visit with troubling news. "David's been moving money around," James explained. "Large amounts transferred to offshore accounts. And there's something else. He's been meeting secretly with Victoria." Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "Victoria and David, are you sure?" James nodded grimly. "They've been seen together at restaurants, hotels. The private investigator I hired got pictures." He pulled out an envelope and showed Marcus several photos of his brother and fiancée looking very cozy together. When Anna came on shift that evening, she found Marcus in a dark mood. The photos were spread out on his bed. Without him saying a word, she understood what had happened. She quietly started picking up the pictures, putting them back in the envelope. "You deserve better than this," she said simply. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. Her simple uniform, her kind eyes, her gentle hands that had helped him heal. "Why do you care so much?" he asked. Anna smiled softly. "Because I believe everyone deserves a second chance at happiness, even stubborn millionaires who work too hard." That night, as Anna went about her duties, she didn't notice Victoria watching her from the hallway with cold, calculating eyes. Victoria had seen how Marcus looked at the nurse. She had noticed how he smiled more when Anna was around, and she wasn't about to let some nobody nurse ruin her plans. Victoria pulled out her phone and dialed David's number. "We need to talk," she said. "There's something standing in our way, in his hospital." Bed Marcus finally fell asleep, unaware that the worst betrayals were yet to come, but he was also unaware that in Anna he had found someone who would stand by him through the storm ahead, someone whose simple honesty would help him rebuild, not just his life but his heart. Victoria's plan went into action quickly. The next morning she stormed into Marcus's hospital room just as Anna was checking his vital signs. "I want her fired," Victoria shouted, pointing at Anna. "I caught her going through Marcus's personal belongings last night. She's probably trying to steal from him." Anna stood there, shocked. "That's not true," she said firmly. "I would never do that." Marcus tried to sit up in his bed. "Victoria, what are you talking about? Anna has been nothing but helpful." But Victoria had already called the hospital administrator. Within minutes, the room was filled with people. The administrator, security guards, even a police officer. Victoria put on a great show, crying and claiming she had video evidence of Anna stealing. "Check the security cameras," Anna said calmly. "I've done nothing wrong." Marcus watched as Anna was escorted out of the room pending an investigation. He saw the small smile of satisfaction on Victoria's face, and suddenly everything became clear. This wasn't about stealing. This was about getting rid of Anna. That night, with a different nurse checking on him, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Anna, about how unfair this whole situation was. He pressed the call button and asked to speak to the hospital administrator. "I want to see the security footage," Marcus demanded, "and I want my lawyer present when we review." The administrator looked uncomfortable. "Mr. King, Ms. Chase already withdrew her complaint. She said she might have been mistaken. But hospital policy requires us to transfer Ms. Martinez to another floor." Marcus felt his anger rising. "So Victoria made false accusations, and now Anna is being punished for it. I won't accept that." Meanwhile, Anna was at home in her small apartment, worried sick about her job. She had worked at the hospital for 8 years without a single complaint. Now her reputation was at risk because of Victoria's lies. The next morning, Anna's phone rang. It was her union representative. "Ms. Martinez, someone powerful is arguing your case. The hospital administration wants to meet with you." When Anna arrived at the hospital, she found Marcus sitting in the administrator's office against doctor's orders. He was still in his hospital gown, hooked up to a portable heart monitor, but his face was determined. "Either Anna returns to her regular duties, or I'm pulling all my charitable donations to this hospital," Marcus stated firmly. "And I'll make sure everyone knows why." The administrator quickly agreed to reinstate Anna, but as she left his office, Anna confronted Marcus. "You shouldn't have done that," she said. "You're risking your health." Marcus looked at her with tired but determined eyes. "You stood by me when I was at my lowest. It's time someone stood up for you." What they didn't know was that Victoria had seen everything. She rushed to meet David at their usual secret spot, an expensive restaurant across town. "That nurse is becoming a real problem," Victoria fumed. "Marcus is falling for her. I can see it in his eyes. We need to do something more drastic." David swirled his expensive wine thoughtfully. "I might have an idea. Remember that patient who died under mysterious circumstances last year? The one Anna Martinez took care of." Victoria's eyes lit up with cruel interest. "Tell me more." Back at the hospital, Anna helped Marcus return to his room. As she adjusted his monitors, their hands touched briefly. Both felt a spark of electricity, but quickly pulled away. "Thank you," Anna said softly. "Nobody has ever stood up for me like that before." Marcus looked at her intently. "Anna, I need to tell you something. These past weeks, you've shown me what real caring looks like. Not the fake concern Victoria shows for the cameras, but genuine kindness." Anna felt her heart beating faster. "Marcus, don't. You're still engaged, and I'm just a nurse." "No," Marcus said, taking her hand. "You're the most real person I've ever met." But their moment was interrupted by the arrival of James Peterson, Marcus's lawyer, bursting into the room with urgent news. "Marcus, we have a big problem," James said, out of breath. "David has called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow. He's going to try to have you declared mentally incompetent to run the company. He's claiming your heart attack affected." "Your brain," Anna gasped. Marcus's grip on her hand tightened. "That's not all," James continued grimly. "He's got Victoria ready to testify that you've been making irrational decisions. They're going to use your defense of Anna as evidence that you're not thinking clearly." Marcus looked at Anna, seeing the worry in her eyes. They both knew that Victoria and David's schemes were about to get much worse. But they also knew that something had changed between them, something that would give them strength for the battle ahead. The morning of the board meeting arrived with dark clouds hanging over the city. Marcus insisted on attending in person. Despite his doctor's protests, Anna helped him get ready, worried about how the stress might affect his heart. "I'll be fine," Marcus assured her, though his hands shook slightly as he tried to tie his tie. Anna stepped forward and fixed it for him, her fingers brushing against his collar. "Just remember to stay calm," she said. "Your health matters more than any company." When Marcus arrived at King Enterprises, the lobby fell silent. Employees who used to greet him warmly now looked away. His own secretary hurried past without making eye contact. David had done his work well. The boardroom was packed. David sat at the head of the table, Marcus's old seat. Victoria sat beside him, wearing a black dress like she was at a funeral. The board members, people Marcus had worked with for years, wouldn't meet his eyes. "Brother," David said with fake concern, "you shouldn't be here. You're not well." Marcus stayed standing, holding onto the back of a chair for support. "I'm well enough to stop you from stealing my company." David smiled coldly and nodded to his lawyer, who started distributing thick folders to everyone in the room. "These are Marcus's medical records," David announced. "As you can see, his heart attack caused oxygen deprivation to his brain. His recent behavior, threatening the hospital, becoming emotionally involved with a nurse, shows his judgment is impaired." Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "It breaks my heart to say this, but Marcus isn't the same man anymore. He needs help, not the stress of running a company." Marcus felt his real heart pounding dangerously fast, but before he could speak, the boardroom door opened. Anna walked in, still wearing her nurse's uniform. She had come straight from her shift. "If you're going to discuss Mr. King's medical condition," she said clearly, "you should hear from someone who actually knows about medicine." David jumped to his feet. "This is a private meeting, security." But James Peterson, Marcus's lawyer, stepped forward. "Ms. Martinez is here as a medical expert witness. If you remove her, we'll have grounds for immediate legal action." Anna walked to the front of the room, her head held high. She faced the board members directly. "I've been Mr. King's nurse since his heart attack. I can tell you that while his heart needed healing, his mind has always been clear. In fact, he's shown better judgment recently than when he first came to us." She turned to look at David and Victoria. "He's seen through people who pretend to care about him while plotting behind his back. That's not mental impairment. That's wisdom." Victoria's face turned red with anger. "How dare you? You're just a nurse who got too attached to her patient. Everyone knows you're taking advantage of him." "Taking advantage?" Marcus's voice boomed through the room. "Let's talk about taking advantage, Victoria. Let's talk about how you and David have been meeting in secret. Let's talk about the offshore accounts." The board members started murmuring. David's lawyer tried to interrupt, but Marcus kept going. He pulled out his phone and played a recording. Victoria's voice clearly discussing plans with David to take over the company. "I had my own private investigator," Marcus explained. "He's been following you both for weeks." David's face turned pale. Victoria jumped up from her chair, her designer purse falling to the floor. Papers spilled out, including documents showing transfers of company money to private accounts. The boardroom erupted in chaos. Board members started shouting questions. David tried to explain, but Victoria was already backing toward the door, looking for an escape. Suddenly, Marcus felt a sharp pain in his chest. He grabbed at his heart, stumbling. Anna rushed to his side, catching him before he fell. "His heart," she shouted. "Someone call an ambulance." As Marcus fought to stay conscious, he heard the concern in people's voices. Real concern this time, not fake like Victoria's. He felt Anna's strong hands supporting him, heard her professional voice giving medical instructions. The last thing he saw before everything went dark was David being confronted by angry board members and Victoria running out of the room in tears. When he woke up, he was back in the hospital, but this time was different. The board members had called an emergency session and voted to reinstate him as CEO. David was under investigation for financial fraud. Victoria had disappeared, leaving only a note saying she was moving to Europe. Anna sat beside his bed, holding his hand. "You shouldn't have pushed yourself so hard," she scolded gently. Marcus smiled weakly. "Had to protect what matters." He squeezed her hand. "And I'm not talking about the company." But their moment of peace wouldn't last long. Outside the hospital room, a woman from Marcus's past was waiting to visit, someone who would bring new complications to their already dramatic story. And in a lawyer's office across town, Victoria was meeting with someone who promised to help her get revenge on both Marcus and Anna. The woman waiting outside Marcus's hospital room was Elena Richardson, his ex-wife from 15 years ago. She looked exactly like Anna remembered her from magazine covers, tall, elegant, and always perfectly put together. "I came as soon as I heard about your heart attack," Elena said, walking into the room. She stopped short when she saw Anna holding Marcus's hand. "I didn't realize you had company." Marcus hadn't seen Eleanor since their divorce. She had left him for a European prince, creating a huge scandal. Now here she was, looking at him with concern in her eyes. "Elena," Marcus said, his voice tired, "why are you really here?" Before she could answer, 2 police detectives walked in. "Mr. King, Ms. Martinez, we need to ask you both some questions about Victoria Chase." Anna felt Marcus's hand tighten around hers. The detective pulled out a notebook. "Ms. Chase has filed a complaint. She claims that Ms. Martinez was stealing drugs from the hospital and selling them. She says that's how she got Mr. King under her influence." "That's ridiculous." Marcus tried to sit up, but Anna gently pushed him back. Elena stepped forward. "I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. I know several excellent lawyers who could help clear this up." The detectives took statements from everyone. After they left, Elena lingered. "Marcus, you need someone who understands your world, someone who can help you fight these accusations. Let me help." Anna quietly excused herself to give them privacy. In the hallway, she ran into James Peterson, Marcus's lawyer. His face was grim. "Victoria's been busy," James said. "She's talking to every tabloid in town, spreading stories about you and Marcus. And there's something else. She found the family of that patient who died last year under your care." Anna felt her legs go weak. "Mrs. Henderson, but that was natural. Causes. There was nothing anyone could have done." "Victoria's paying them to say different," James explained. "She's trying to destroy your nursing career." Back in Marcus's room, Elena was making her pitch. "Remember how good we were together? Before all the business success went to your head. I was wrong to leave, but I've grown up. We could try again." Marcus looked at the door where Anna had gone. "Elena, I'm not the same person I was, and neither are you. You're here because you saw in the news that I kept my company. If I had lost everything, you wouldn't have come." Elena's sweet smile turned cold. "You're choosing that nurse over me. Marcus, think about your reputation. The board members might support you now, but how will they feel about their CEO dating the help? Get out." Marcus's voice was quiet, but firm. "I've had enough of people who care more about appearances than what's real." Meanwhile, Anna was in the hospital chapel praying for strength. Her whole career was at risk. Victoria's false accusations could ruin everything she had worked for. But what scared her most was losing Marcus. A nurse stuck her head in the chapel door. "Anna, come quick, Mr. King's having another episode." Anna ran to Marcus's room. His heart monitor was beeping wildly. Elena stood there helplessly as Marcus gasped for breath. "Move!" Anna pushed past Elena and quickly checked Marcus's vitals. She called the code team, then started emergency procedures. Her training took over, pushing aside all personal feelings. Slowly, Marcus's heartbeat stabilized. The crisis passed. When he opened his eyes, he saw Anna's worried face above him. "My guardian angel," he whispered. Elena watched from the corner, seeing how they looked at each other. She pulled out her phone and made a call. "Victoria, it's Elena. I think we can help each other." Later that night, after Marcus was sleeping, peacefully Anna checked her email. Her hands started shaking. Someone had sent anonymous letters to the nursing board, claiming she had helped multiple patients die for money. The evidence was fake, but convincing. James Peterson appeared at her side. "We'll fight this," he promised. "But you should know. They're also claiming you and Marcus conspired to frame David and Victoria. They're trying to make it look like you seduced Marcus as part of a plan to take over the company." Anna looked through the glass at Marcus's sleeping form. "Maybe Elena's right," she said softly. "Maybe I don't belong in his world. All I'm doing is causing him more stress." "Don't you dare give up," a weak voice said. Marcus was awake, watching her through the window. "Come in here." Anna walked into his room, trying to hold back tears. Marcus reached for her hand. "You want to know why I trust you?" he asked. "Because when everyone else was trying to take something from me, you were just trying to help me heal. That's worth more than all the fancy reputations in the world. But outside the hospital, Victoria and Eleanor were meeting in an expensive restaurant, plotting their next move. And in a small office downtown, Mrs. Henderson's family was preparing to go public with their accusations against Anna. The storm that was coming would test not just Marcus and Anna's feelings for each other, but their very strength to keep fighting. The morning news hit like a bomb. Every channel showed pictures of Mrs. Henderson's crying family outside the hospital. "Our mother trusted her nurse," Mrs. Henderson's daughter sobbed for the cameras. "We never thought Anna Martinez would help her die to get money from rich patients." Marcus watched the coverage from his hospital bed, his fists clenched in anger. Anna had been suspended pending investigation. The nursing board had no choice with all the media attention. "We'll fix this," James Peterson promised, pacing the room. But Victoria and Elena have done their homework. They've found 3 other families willing to say Anna was suspiciously close to their rich relatives before they died. All lies. Marcus slammed his hand on the bed tray. "Anna has spent her life helping people." Eleanor chose that moment to sweep into the room. "Darling, you need to distance yourself from this scandal. The board members are getting nervous again. Let me handle the press. I'll tell them you were too weak after your heart attack to realize what was happening." Marcus looked at her with disgust. "You're behind this, aren't you? You and Victoria." Elena's perfect smile didn't waver. "I'm trying to save your reputation. That nurse has been using you, think about it. She probably caused your heart attack in the first place. She was just waiting for a rich patient she could manipulate. Get out." Marcus's voice shook with rage. "And tell Victoria I'm going to prove what you're both doing." But Elena just laughed softly. "Prove what? That your ex-wife and ex-fiancé are concerned about you? That we're warning you about a nurse with a suspicious past? Face it, Marcus. In our world, people will believe what we tell them to believe." After Elena left, Marcus called for his driver. Despite doctor's orders, he checked himself out of the hospital. He had to find Anna. Anna's small apartment was surrounded by reporters. She sat inside with all the curtains drawn, crying as she watched her life fall apart on TV. Her phone was full of hateful messages. Even some of her old patients' families were starting to doubt her. A knock at her door made her jump. Through the peephole, she saw Marcus leaning against the wall, looking pale. "You shouldn't be here," she said, opening the door. "You're not strong enough?" "I'm exactly where I need to be." Marcus walked in, then had to sit quickly as dizziness hit him. "We're going to fight this together." Anna helped him to her couch. Her small living room, with its simple furniture and family photos, was so different from his luxury penthouse. "Look at this," she said sadly. "This is my real world. Not fancy restaurants and board meetings. Maybe Elena's right. We're just too different." Marcus took her hand. "I've lived in that fancy world my whole life. Want to know what I learned? It's all fake. The parties, the designer clothes, the perfect smiles, they're all covering up empty hearts. But you, Anna Martinez, you're real. Everything about you is real." Tears fell down Anna's cheeks. "I could lose my nursing license. Everything I've worked for gone because of lies." "Then we'll prove they're lies." Marcus pulled out his phone. "James is already tracking down everyone who worked with you on those cases, and I've hired the best private investigators to look into Victoria and Elena's connection." But their moment was interrupted by another news alert. David had called a press conference. He stood at the podium looking appropriately concerned as he announced that King Enterprises would fully cooperate with any investigation into Anna Martinez. "While my brother recovers from his unfortunate condition," David said smoothly, "we want to ensure all our stakeholders that the company takes these accusations very seriously." Anna watched Marcus's face grow darker. "He's still trying to push me out," Marcus said. "They all are. Victoria, Elena, David, they're working together now. They want to destroy you to get to me." A new text made Anna's phone buzz. It was from another nurse. "The Henderson family is suing the hospital. They're saying you gave their mother extra morphine when you thought no one was watching." Marcus saw Anna's hands shake as she read the message. He pulled her close, letting her cry. Against his shoulder, "I won't let them win," he promised, "no matter what it takes." Outside, reporters were taking pictures through gaps in the curtains. By morning, every tabloid would show Marcus King visiting his killer nurse girlfriend. The headlines would scream about scandal and betrayal. But in that small apartment holding each other, Marcus and Anna found strength in what Elena had called their biggest weakness, their realness, their true feelings for each other. What they didn't know was that in a luxury hotel across town, Victoria was meeting with someone who had even more reason to hate them both. Marcus's oldest son from his first marriage, a son who had never forgiven his father for choosing business over family. And in her expensive penthouse, Elena was looking at old photos of her life with Marcus, plotting how to use 20 years of secrets to destroy the woman who had stolen him from her again. Jonathan King stood in Victoria's hotel suite, looking at photos of his father with Anna. At 30 years old, he had his father's strong features, but his mother Elena's cold eyes. "So this nurse thinks she can take over my father's life?" Jonathan picked up a photo and ripped it in half. "After everything he did to our family?" Victoria poured more champagne. "She's got Marcus wrapped around her finger, but with your help we can stop her. Think about it, you're his only heir. If he's declared unfit to run the company, it should all be mine anyway," Jonathan said bitterly. "I grew up watching him build that company while he was missing. My birthdays, my graduation, my whole life, he was building his precious empire. Now he wants to give it all to some gold-digging nurse." Meanwhile, Anna had gone back to her parents' small house in Queens. Her mother cried when she saw the news stories, but her father stood strong. "Mihija," her father said, hugging her. "We know who you are. No lies can change that." Marcus had wanted to come with her, but his doctors insisted he rest. His heart wasn't strong enough yet for all this stress, but he kept calling, telling her to stay strong. Anna was helping her. Mother with dinner when the doorbell rang. When she opened it, she found herself face to face with a young man who looked just like Marcus. "So you're the famous Anna Martinez," Jonathan said with a cold smile. "We need to talk." Anna's father came to stand beside her protectively, but Anna stepped onto the porch. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand something," Jonathan said quietly. "That company belongs to the King family, real family, not some nurse playing house with my father. Walk away now, or I'll make those accusations about Mrs. Henderson look like nothing." "Your father almost died," Anna said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Where were you then? Where was your concern for family?" Jonathan's face twisted with anger. "Don't talk to me about family. He walked away from us. Now he's trying to replace us with you. Not going to happen." Back at the hospital, Marcus was looking at old photos of Jonathan, pictures of a little boy who used to run to his office after school, who used to beg to hear stories about the business. When had it all gone? So wrong. James Peterson rushed in with news. "Marcus, we found something. The Henderson family's new lawyer? He works for Elena's foundation. And the money they're using to sue the hospital, it came from an account David set up." Marcus grabbed his phone to call Anna, but Elena walked in before he could dial. "I just saw Jonathan," Elena said smoothly. "He's very upset about this nurse situation. Can't you see what this is doing to our son?" "Our son?" Marcus's voice rose. "You're the one who took him to Europe. You're the one who filled his head with lies about me." "I told him the truth," Elena shot back, "that his father cared more about his company than his family. And now look, you're ready to throw it all away for some woman you barely know." Suddenly, Marcus's phone buzzed. It was a text from Anna. "Your son just threatened me, but I won't let him scare me away from you." Marcus felt his chest tighten. Now Jonathan was involved in their schemes. How far would they go? Anna's parents insisted she stay the night. As she lay in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by old nursing school books and family photos, her phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. When she opened it, her blood ran cold. It was a video of Mrs. Henderson's last night at the hospital. Someone had edited it to make it look like Anna was tampering with the medication. They had even added shadows to make it seem sinister. "See how easy it is to create evidence," Jonathan's message read. "Walk away from my father, or tomorrow every news station gets this video." Anna's hands shook as she called Marcus. When he answered, she could hear the pain in his voice. "They're all working together now," she said. "Victoria, Elena, David, and Jonathan. They won't stop until they've destroyed us. Listen to me, Marcus said firmly. Tomorrow morning I'm calling a press conference. No more hiding, no more letting them spread their lies. It's time to fight back. What Marcus didn't know was that his own body was about to betray him. As he hung up the phone, he felt a sharp, crushing pain in his chest, worse than his first heart attack. As he fell to the floor, his last thought was of Anna. Would she know that none of this was her fault? Would she stay strong without him? The night nurse found him minutes later, already unconscious. As the emergency team rushed him to surgery, Elena and Jonathan arrived at the hospital. This time, they were ready to make sure Anna never got near Marcus again. The hospital corridors echoed with urgent footsteps as doctors rushed Marcus into emergency surgery. Eleanor paced the waiting room while Jonathan made phone calls, making sure they controlled who could visit Marcus afterward. Anna was still at her parents' house when she got the call about Marcus's second heart attack. She jumped in her father's old truck and raced to the hospital, her heart pounding with fear. But when she arrived, security stopped her at the entrance. "Sorry, Ms. Martinez, we have strict orders. Family only." Through the glass doors, she saw Elena talking to the hospital administrator. Elena saw her too and smiled that perfect, cruel smile. "You can't keep me away from him," Anna told the security guard. "I'm his nurse." "Not anymore," Elena said, walking over. "You've been suspended, remember? And as Marcus's ex-wife and the mother of his son, I've taken charge of his medical decisions. He needs peace and quiet, not more stress from complications." Anna felt tears building, but refused to let them fall. He needs someone who actually cares about him, not people who see him as a way to get money and power. Jonathan appeared beside his mother. "Haven't you caused enough damage? Look what falling for you has done to him. 2 heart attacks? Maybe if you really care, you'll stay away." Inside the operating room, doctors worked desperately to save Marcus's life. His heart had been weakened by the first attack, and now the stress had nearly killed him. James Peterson found Anna sitting in her truck in the parking lot, crying. "Don't give up," he said, climbing into the passenger seat. "I've been doing more digging. Want to know what I found?" He pulled out his tablet and showed her some documents. "Remember when Elena left Marcus for that prince? There was no prince. She left because she had been stealing from the company, and Marcus was about to find out. But instead of turning her in, he let her go for Jonathan's sake." Anna wiped her eyes. "Does Jonathan know?" "No. Eleanor told him Marcus sent them away because he chose the company over family. She's been poisoning him against his father for 20 years. James showed her more files. "And guess who helped Elena hide the stolen money back then? David. They've been secret partners for years." "So this isn't just about me," Anna said slowly. "They're using me to hurt Marcus because he once showed Elena mercy?" "Exactly. And Victoria? She was David's girlfriend first. They planned for her to seduce Marcus so they could take over the company. But then Marcus fell for you instead, and their whole plan fell apart." Suddenly Anna sat up straighter. "Mrs. Henderson's family. They said I gave her extra morphine when no one was watching, but there would be records of all medication given. And security cameras," James smiled. "Now you're thinking like a fighter. I've already subpoenaed the hospital. Records from that night. They're going to prove you did everything right." But inside the hospital, Elena was also busy. She found the night nurse who had been on duty with Anna during Mrs. Henderson's last hours. "How much?" Elena asked, pulling out her checkbook. "How much to say you saw Anna Martinez tampering with the medication?" The nurse, Susan Parker, looked at the checkbook with tired eyes. She had 3 kids in college and a sick mother to care for. I can't lie, Anna is a good nurse." Elena wrote down a number and slid it across the desk. "Everyone has a price. Think about your family." Meanwhile, Jonathan sat by his father's bed in intensive care. Looking at Marcus's pale face, he remembered being small, sitting on his father's lap, while Marcus explained how the business worked. Had his mother lied about everything? But before he could follow that thought, Victoria burst into the room. "Jonathan, the board members are asking questions. We need you to sign these papers while your father's unconscious. They'll give you temporary control of the company." Jonathan stared at the papers. This was what he'd always wanted, wasn't it? To prove he could run the company as well as his father? Outside in her truck, Anna was praying for Marcus's recovery. When her phone buzzed, it was a text from Susan Parker. "Meet me in the hospital chapel. There's something you need to know." Anna looked up at the hospital windows. Somewhere in there, Marcus was fighting for his life. And now she had a choice: stay safely away like they wanted, or fight back. She got out of the truck and walked toward the hospital entrance. This time she wasn't going to let anyone stop her from reaching Marcus. What she didn't know was that Eleanor had seen Susan's text message, and she was already making plans to make sure that meeting in the chapel never happened. The hospital chapel was quiet and dark when Anna slipped inside. She saw Susan Parker already waiting in the back pew, nervously checking her phone. "Cannot I have to tell you something?" Susan whispered. "About Mrs. Henderson's last night. Elena offered me money to lie about you, but I can't do it. I was there. I saw how hard you fought to save Mrs. Henderson." Before Anna could respond, they heard footsteps. Elena appeared in the doorway, her face twisted with anger. "You stupid woman," she spat at Susan. "I offered you enough money to put all your kids through college. Instead, you want to play hero?" More footsteps echoed in the chapel. Victoria and David emerged from the shadows. Anna felt her heart race as they surrounded her. "You just won't." "Go away, will you?" Victoria sneered. "The faithful nurse, so pure and good. You're ruining everything." "That's enough." A new voice cut through the darkness. James Peterson stood in the doorway, holding up his phone. "Say hello to the hospital." "Security cameras. I had them turned back on 10 minutes ago. Everything you just said has been recorded." Elena's perfect composure cracked. "You can't prove anything." "Actually, we can." Jonathan stepped out from behind a pillar. His face was pale with anger. "I heard everything. How long have you been lying to me, Mother? Did Dad really send us away, or was that just another story to make me hate him?" Elena reached for her son. "Jonathan, darling, everything I did was for you." "No," Jonathan's voice was hard. "It was for you, always for you. The stealing, the lies, using me against Dad. I remember now. I remember him begging you not to take me away." Victoria tried to run, but security guards appeared at every door. David started yelling about his lawyers, but no one was listening. Susan Parker stepped forward. "I'll testify about everything. How you tried to bribe me, how Anna really cared for Mrs. Henderson. All of it." Upstairs in intensive care, Marcus was finally waking up. His eyes opened to find Anna holding his hand, tears running down her face. "What happened?" he asked weakly. "Everything's coming out," Anna said softly. "Elena's old theft, David and Victoria's plots, all of it. But most importantly—" She moved aside to reveal Jonathan standing behind her. "Dad," Jonathan's voice broke, "I'm so sorry. Mum, she told me so many lies. I wanted to hurt you because I thought you had hurt us first." Marcus reached for his son's hand. "I should have fought harder to keep you with me. Running the company seemed so important then. I was wrong." "Very touching," said a cold voice. They turned to see Eleanor in the doorway, but this time she held a syringe in her shaking hand. "You think you've won? You think you can take my son? My future, everything I've worked for? Mum, stop." Jonathan moved toward her, but Elena raised the syringe threateningly. "All of you back away from him," she ordered. 20 years ago you showed mercy, Marcus. You let me go instead of pressing charges. That was your mistake. I won't make the same error." But she hadn't noticed Anna moving quietly along the wall. As Elena stepped toward Marcus's bed, Anna grabbed her arm, using the self-defense moves her brother had taught her. The syringe went flying. Security guards rushed in, finally taking Elena away. As they led her out, she was still screaming about revenge. In the chaos that followed, Marcus held onto both Anna and Jonathan's hands. "My real family," he said quietly. "Not the one money can buy, but the one love builds." Later that night, after Jonathan had gone to give his statement to the police, Anna sat beside Marcus's bed. "Your heart rate is finally stable," she said, checking the monitors. "Of course it is," Marcus smiled. "My heart found its guardian angel." But even as they shared this moment of peace, Victoria was making one last desperate move. In her hotel room, she logged into her computer and pressed send on a mass email. She had nothing left to lose now, so why not release all the fake evidence they had created about Anna? By morning, every news station in the country would have their edited videos and false documents. The question was, would the truth come out fast enough to save Anna's reputation? And would Marcus's heart be strong enough for one final fight? The morning sun rose over a city buzzing with scandal. Victoria's mass email had worked. Every news channel showed the doctored videos of Anna supposedly hurting patients. Outside the hospital, reporters crowded together, hungry for more drama. But this time Anna wasn't hiding. She stood at a podium in the hospital's main conference room, her parents on one side, Marcus in a wheelchair on the other. Jonathan stood protectively behind his father's chair. "I became a nurse because I believe in helping people," Anna said clearly into the microphones. "No lies can change that." "Truth?" James Peterson stepped forward, holding up a stack of papers. "We have proof that these videos were edited. The original security footage shows Ms. Martinez doing her job exactly as she should. We also have evidence of who created these false accusations." He started distributing documents to the reporters, bank records showing payments from Elena to the video editor, emails between Victoria and David planning their schemes, witness statements from hospital staff. Susan Parker took the podium next. "I was there the night Mrs. Henderson passed away. Anna Martinez spent hours trying to save her life. When nothing more could be done, she sat with Mrs. Henderson, holding her hand so she wouldn't be alone." In the back of the room, Mrs. Henderson's daughter stood up. "We were wrong," she said through tears. "They offered us money to blame the nurse who tried to help our mother. We're dropping all charges and apologizing to Ms. Martinez." The news cameras swung between the speakers as more people came forward. Hospital staff told stories of Anna's dedication. Former patients and their families spoke about her kindness. Even some board members from King Enterprises stood to praise her integrity. Victoria watched it all on TV from her hotel room, rage building as her plans crumbled. She grabbed her passport and keys, heading for the airport, but police were already waiting in the lobby. "Victoria Chase," the detective said, "you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and attempted murder." Across town, Elena sat in her jail cell, her perfect appearance finally cracking. Her expensive clothes were gone, replaced by an orange jumpsuit. David was in the cell next door, still shouting about his lawyers. Back at the hospital, after the press conference, Marcus held Anna's hand as the doctor gave him good news. His heart was getting stronger. The rest and proper care were finally paying off. "I guess love is good medicine," the doctor smiled. Jonathan came in carrying boxes of his childhood things from Elena's house. "Look what I found, Dad," he said, pulling out old photos. "Remember when you used to let me play office in your desk chair? We have a lot of time to make up for," Marcus said, hugging his son. Anna watched them with happy tears in her eyes. She started to step out to give them privacy, but both Kingmen called her back. "You're family now," Jonathan said. "No more doubts, no more listening to lies about gold diggers or social climbers. I've seen your heart, Anna. It's even bigger than Dad's company." A week later, Marcus was strong enough to leave the hospital. But before they left, he had a surprise for Anna. He called all the hospital staff together in the main lobby. "This place has given me more than just physical healing," he announced. "It gave me love, truth, and a second chance at family. So, I'm establishing the Martinez Nursing Scholarship Fund to help others follow their dreams of helping people, just like Anna did." Anna's parents cried with pride as Marcus handed them the first check. It would provide nursing school scholarships for decades to come. Outside, spring flowers bloomed in the hospital garden. Marcus insisted on walking out on his own feet, though Anna stayed close just in case. Jonathan carried his father's bags, chatting about plans to learn the business the right way this time. As they reached the car, Marcus suddenly turned to Anna. "Marry me," he said simply. Anna looked surprised. "Here? Now? Why not? This place brought us together, and I don't want to waste any more time." "But what about a big society wedding?" "Your position?" Marcus laughed. "I think we've had enough drama. Let's just be real, like you taught me to be." Later that evening, in the hospital's small chapel, Anna and Marcus exchanged vows. Her parents, his son, their true friends, surrounded them. No cameras, no reporters, no fake smiles or hidden agendas. Just honest love and new beginnings. Victoria and Elena watched the wedding announcement on the small TV in their prison's common room. David had already accepted a plea deal, revealing everything in exchange for a lighter sentence. "You know what? The worst part is," Victoria said bitterly, "they're actually happy. All our schemes, all our plans, and they still won." Elena didn't answer. She was looking at an old photo of herself with baby Jonathan, remembering a time before. Greed and lies poisoned everything. Back at the King house, Marcus sat in his home office with Jonathan, teaching him about the business, doing things right this time. Anna popped her head in to remind Marcus to take his medicine. "What did I do to deserve you?" Marcus asked, pulling her close. "You learned to listen to your heart," Anna smiled, both literally and figuratively. Outside the window, the city stretched out before them. Somewhere out there, other dramas were unfolding, other lives were changing. But in this moment, in this room, there was only truth, family, and love. The real kind that no amount of money could buy. Jonathan watched his father and new stepmother with a peaceful smile. The anger and confusion of the past were finally fading. He understood now what real wealth looked like. It wasn't in bank accounts or company shares. It was right here, in a father's proud eyes and a good woman's caring heart. The evening sun painted the sky in beautiful colors as the King family sat down to dinner together. No servants, no fancy china, just Anna's mother's home cooking and the simple joy of being together. To second chances, Marcus raised his glass. To real love, Anna added. To family, Jonathan finished, and in that moment, they all knew, no matter what storms might come, their hearts would face them together.